They mocked the cleaning lady until she fired the CEO right in the boardroom, left everyone speechless. "Get that trash out of my sight," Bradley Whitmore barked, crushing the crumpled Diversity Day poster beneath his Italian loafer as if stamping out the idea itself, while Marion Brooks, yellow rubber gloves gleaming like muted armor, knelt to wipe the scuff he'd left on the marble floor of Hawthorne and Beck's Dallas headquarters. To every passing executive, the scene was invisible: a middle-aged black cleaning lady, head-bowed, hands steady, erasing the evidence of someone else's power. Yet inside Marion's chest, a small, defiant heat flared, the same heat that had fueled 10 straight years of night shifts, quiet observation, and methodical stock purchasing through the company's employee plan until her share count sat just beyond the threshold no one imagined she could reach. She rose, pushing her cart down the corridor, where glass walls showcased deals worth millions and laughter worth nothing, replaying Whitmore's earlier sneer when the algorithmic dashboard flashed red next to a list of low-value employees: janitors, cafeteria workers, anyone over 50, anyone her color. AI never lies. He'd boasted to the board, but Marion had seen the source code line that hardwired bias into high-F workforce like a quiet virus. She tightened her grip on the mop handle, feeling not wood, but the metaphorical lever Archimedes once promised could move the world, and slipped the poster into her pocket, a torn emblem of the culture she intended to expose. At the end of the hall, Jin-Ho Park, a nervous Korean-American intern, balancing 3 lattes, froze as Whitmore's entourage stampeded past. Their shouted joke, "Next round of layoffs should free up a parking space for my Tesla," left him blinking. His eyes met Marion's just long enough for shared disquiet to spark recognition, but he looked away, afraid to linger. Marion kept walking. In the supply closet, she pulled out a flash drive labeled only with a faded smiley sticker. Inside it waited logs she had quietly cloned from the AI server, proof that efficiency was code for sanctioned prejudice. The clock on the wall ticked toward 7 a.m. shift change data sync time, and the moment when yesterday's sins rolled clean into today's spreadsheets. Marion exhaled, imagining the boardroom's panoramic skyline view, where 1 week from now she planned to lay the truth bare. She peeled off one glove, feeling the cool air on her skin, and whispered to the silent shelves, "They'll see me." Then she tucked the glove into her uniform pocket beside the torn poster, 2 symbols, 1 plan, and stepped back into the corridor where light from the rising Texas sun cast long shadows that could no longer hide what was coming. Fire her? No, just throttle her score to 0. Nobody questions an algorithm. Bradley Whitmore hissed during a late-night strategy huddle, unaware that Marion Brooks, invisible in the dim hallway, captured every syllable on her phone's voice memos app tucked beneath a spare yellow glove. The boardroom lights spilled through frosted glass, outlining silhouettes of men congratulating themselves on a new quarter of cost optimization code words for trimming anyone the biased AI flagged as unprofitable older custodians, cafeteria moms, veterans with therapy appointments. Marion's pulse hammered, but she held steady. This was the proof she'd prayed for, the smoking gun that welded her private fury into careful resolve. Slipping away, she navigated the maze of cubicles, where glowing screens reflected anxious faces frantically clearing inboxes long after dark. At the copier, she crossed paths with Jin-Ho Park eyes, puffy from caffeine and fear. An auto-generated termination list flickered on his tablet, and he whispered, "My mentor's name is on it, decades of service gone, because the bot says so." Marion placed her gloved hand over the screen, the rubber squeak as soft as empathy, and murmured, "Keep that file. You'll need courage soon." It was the first time she revealed a hint of alliance, and the intern nodded, swallowing nerves like bitter coffee. Down in the sub-basement server room, Marion punched in a custodial master code. Ironic how the same badge that relegated her to cleaning also granted unrestricted after-hours access, and the steel door sighed open. Racks of humming machines filled the space with a metallic heartbeat. Each blinking LED felt like an accusing eye. She approached the high-F workforce mainframe, slid her smiley sticker flash drive into a maintenance port, and executed the script a pro bono data ethics lawyer had crafted. In 40 seconds, the drive siphoned log files, training datasets riddled with skewed samples, secret weight adjustments, manually entered by Bradley himself, time-stamped and traceable. Sweat beaded under Marion's collar. If security walked in, one fabricated sabotage claim could erase everything, including her freedom. Yet, as progress bars inched forward, she pictured the yellow glove laid atop the boardroom table on D-Day, a silent challenge to every glass ceiling myth, and steadied her breathing. Transfer complete. Eject. Pocket. On her way out, she nearly collided with Samira Diaz, a night shift security guard struggling to keep her own job after maternity leave. Samira's body cam flashed red, catching Marion mid-stride. For one electric moment, Marion considered lying, but trust builds revolutions. She instead met Samira's gaze and said, "Tomorrow at 6 p.m., log into this stream," sliding a handwritten URL between two glove fingers. Samira, sensing a larger truth, clipped the note beneath her badge while the camera conveniently malfunctioned. Upstairs, the skyline glittered, but thunderclouds massed on the horizon, reflecting in the tower's glass like a warning that storms reveal weak foundations. Marion reached the street as the first raindrops fell, each pat on the pavement, echoing her heartbeat. She unfolded the crumpled Diversity Day poster, now smeared with machine oil fingerprints, and shielded it under the glove, a promise to every unseen worker that their worth would not be algorithmically erased. Taxi lights blurred into streaks. She had 48 hours to compile a dossier airtight enough to withstand Bradley's legal onslaught and public enough to ignite outrage. The glove, the poster, the stolen logs, 3 chess pieces in a game approaching checkmate. Yet somewhere in the dark, a counter-move was already forming, and Bradley Whitmore never played fair. "Ms. Brooks, you do realize he can bury you," the pro bono lawyer warned, sliding a manila folder across the diner booth as thunder rattled the window. "But burying you won't erase this ledger." Marion's fingers, still faintly powdered from latex, opened the folder to reveal color-coded spreadsheets, mapping exactly how Whitmore's manual tweaks tanked minority employees' AI scores the night before each layoff cycle. Her stomach lurched, half from greasy coffee, half from the moral rot on the page, yet she answered with a calm that surprised even her, "Then let him dig. I own the ground." Outside, dawn cracked open a pewter sky. She had 43 hours left. The next stop was a drab co-working loft where former data scientist Leon Cruz hunched over dual monitors, guilt shadows under his eyes. He'd quit when pressured to hard-code bias, and now seeing Marion's trove, he muttered, "This is the smoking gun we never had before," nesting the logs into a visual dashboard that would hit like a meteor at the live-stream town hall. Marion watched the colored bars animate: blue for productivity, gray for risk, red for corporate condemnation, and felt each red spike like a wound she owed to stitch up. She texted Jinho need 200 employee signatures by noon, digital or ink. The reply pinged back instant on it. "We're not low value." Intel traveled faster than loyalty. That afternoon, a company-wide email from Whitmore's office announced an emergency shareholder briefing moved up to tonight. The acceleration was a clear counter-move, stripping Marion of precious prep hours. She drove back to headquarters, rain sheeting over the windshield, rehearsing her contingency plan proxies. In the parking garage, she opened her glove box not for an umbrella, but for notarized proxy forms, signed by retirees and single parents who had quietly bought in through ESPP. Each signature felt like a palm pressed against her back, saying, "Push." Elevator doors parted on the 42nd floor, but her badge light blinked red. Access revoked. 2 security guards flanked the turnstile. One whispered, "Orders from the top." Marion's pulse spiked, yet her voice remained satin smooth. "Gentlemen, I need only 10 minutes upstairs. After that, you can escort me out in cuffs if you still think it's right." The younger guard glanced at her gloves, tucked in her belt, realized who she was, or might be, and hesitated. During that sliver of doubt, Jinho appeared, clutching a tablet thick with signatures, breathless. 300 names, he gasped loud enough for the guards to hear, and climbing. The badge reader suddenly flashed green as the older guard overrode the block, mumbling, "Go." She stepped through each stride, a silent drumbeat of gathering revolt. Yet 50 feet away, a conference room door slammed open, spilling Whitmore's lieutenants, one of them waving a legal injunction, like a dagger motion, filed to void shares acquired under ESPP fraud. The paper crackled. Jinho's eyes widened. The hallway lights flickered under storm pressure. Marion raised a single yellow glove, letting it hang between them like a gauntlet, then turned toward the boardroom where destiny, and perhaps handcuffs, waited. "Invalidate my shares." "You're forgetting I bought the lock before you forged the key," Marion declared as she strode into the executive war room, the injunction flapping in Whitmore's tremoring hand like a wounded bird. The oval table was crowded attorneys on speed-dial directors, whispering calculations, a compliance officer refreshing stock price tickers as though watching a patient's pulse. Marion remained standing, yellow glove raised like a small flag of rebellion, and laid the proxy stack beside the CEO's untouched espresso. Whitmore feigned calm. "Employee stock purchase plans, cap ownership at 15%. Your paperwork breaches the ceiling." "Null and void." Marion's voice cut through the hush section. 4.3c ceiling waived upon spousal inheritance. "Martin Brooks signed that amendment 6 years ago. You countersigned it, Bradley." Leon Cruz videoconferenced from the loft, flashed the clause on a shared screen before anyone could scramble for bylaws. A ripple of unease rolled down the table. Whitmore's eyes narrowed. "Even so, Board Policy 12 lets us suspend voting rights if there's evidence of fraud." Marion tapped the folder of biased weight adjustments. Evidence cuts both ways. She signaled Jinho, who slipped behind a credenza, to text, "Samira, go live in 5. The ceiling lights flickered, thunder rumbling closer, Dallas grid straining under the storm, yet tension inside felt louder. Whitmore leaned forward, lowering his voice to a knife edge. "Walk away with a severance and I'll forget this stunt. Stay and those gloves become shackles." Marion remembered long nights, scrubbing conference room carpets, imagined each fiber soaked in unheard stories, and answered, "Shackles can't hold the ground." She pressed her badge to the room's control tablet. Access denied. Whitmore smirked, having revoked her credentials remotely. But Marion's glove hit a second badge. Martin's legacy cards still live in the forgotten founding investor tier. She tapped again. The smart glass walls polarized to transparency, exposing the showdown to curious staff in the hallway. Whispers swelled like wind against a ship's sail. Across the room, the compliance officer blurted, "Sir Social Chatter Spike hashtag. We're not low value, trending regionally." Whitmore's face flushed crimson as real-time sentiment charts bled red. He lunged for the wall console and killed the projector to stem leaks, plunging the room into storm-gray dimness. Darkness, however, only sharpened Marion's resolve. She activated her phone flashlight, the beam catching the glove's glossy sheen. "Light travels even when you shut the power," she said, pivoting toward the directors whose reputations now hung in that beam. "At 6 sharp, every employee, every journalist, every regulator will see the logs or the resignation letter you draft now. Choose." A lightning flash outside made the tower tremble. Countdown clocks ticked on wristwatches. Options dwindled like oxygen. Whitmore's reply was a measured growl. "Then the choice is simple. Security, remove her." Footsteps thudded in the corridor. Marion slid the glove off, placed it squarely atop the injunction, and stepped back with empty hands raised, surrendering the symbol, not the fight. As the doors burst open, thunder cracked so loud the glass sung, and somewhere in the lobby, Samira's body cam went live. Segment 4 ends exactly there, the screen of possibility, bright as that lone flashlight hanging in midair. Ms. Brooks smiled for the shareholders. "Your coup is streaming in. 4K. Samira Diaz announced, body cam red light, blinking like a warning siren as 2 guards seized Marion's arms and marched her through the glass corridor where dozens of employees pressed against walls, phones lifted high. Marion's heart pounded, but her posture stayed regal. She remembered her glove still resting atop the injunction, like Excalibur awaiting the rightful hand. On screens around the building, Samira's feed split-screened beside Leon's dashboard, crimson bars, exposing each manual bias tweak with Whitmore's digital signature, glowing radioactive yellow. Comment counters spun upward, 1.2K watching, 5K, 20K, and somewhere beyond the storm thundered applause. Whitmore stormed behind them, voice booming, Cut every internal router, kill the Wi-Fi now. IT staff hesitated. Routers sat in locked cages 4 floors below, and the floor-wide UPS had no remote off switch. Jin Ho sprinted past, breathless, thrusting a tablet toward Marion. Signatures just hit 600 majority of non-executive shares. She managed a half smile, even as guard hands tightened. Risk had teeth, and it was biting down. Elevator doors opened into the marble lobby where a crowd of night shift workers formed a human gauntlet. Dishwashers, mechanics, accountants, eyes fixed on Marion, then on Whitmore, then on the feed playing overhead. The CEO pointed at Jin Ho. "Fire that intern immediately." A cafeteria cook yelled back, "You'll have to fire all of us first." The crack in Whitmore's authority widened like a fault line. Marion's captors faltered. Social gravity was flipping. She spoke loudly, voice echoing off stone. "Bradley, first you tried to erase us with an algorithm. Now you want to yank the plug on truth, but you can't unplug people." Samira angled her camera to catch his reaction. The red RX icon hovered like judgment. Whitmore drew a shaky breath, then bluff-charged Board Rule 12 emergency powers. "Effective immediately, I suspend all streams and detain any individual distributing proprietary data." He signaled an IT manager clutching a laptop. The man's cursor hovered over a red terminate broadcast button. Marion shut her eyes, summoned every night of silent endurance into one sentence, and declared, "Terminated, and I trigger the escrow release, every document encrypted to hit federal regulators and the press." Leon's voice boomed through lobby speakers, having patched into the PA backups are primed, "Mr. Whitmore, your move." The laptop hand wavered. At that precise second, the building lights flickered, power grid, flirting with outage casting statuesque shadows. Uncertainty froze the entire lobby like a held breath. Marion felt her captor's grips slip the tide, reversing cell by cell. In the hush, an elevator pinged behind Whitmore. Directors stepped out, each holding a printed emergency ballot marked, "Confidence Vote CEO." Their eyes were unreadable. The storm outside hammered glass, and the REC light kept blinking, thirsty for the next revelation. "Hand those ballots over. This company isn't a democracy," Bradley Whitmore snapped. But his voice cracked just enough for the lobby mic to catch broadcasting insecurity to the thousands now tuned in. The directors halted mid-stride. Water from their umbrellas pooled on the marble, mingling with reflections of the red wreck light that refused to blink away. Marion Brooks' arms finally freed as the guards sensed the shifting tide, stepped forward, not a single glove in sight, just bare hands, scarred by years of invisible work. Actually, Section 9 of the Crisis Bylaws grants any 2 directors power to call an immediate confidence vote when market risk exceeds 5%, she said, nodding to the ticker showing the stock down 7.3% since Leon's dashboard went public. Director Alvarez cleared her throat, lifted her ballot. "We have 12 directors present. A simple majority decides." Whitmore lunged, snatching for the stack, but Jin Ho darted between them, tablet raised like a shield. The screen displayed 642 digital proxies signed in Marion's favor. The crowd gasped as Whitmore's hand slammed into tempered glass and bounced off with a dull thud, power shifting from flesh to pixels in real time. A backup generator hiccuped, the lobby monitors flickered, then a new graphic bloomed, "Live Vote Confidence" in CEO. Green arrows for retain, crimson X's for remove. Numbers rolled like a slot machine, 22%, 38%, 47%. Whitmore barked orders into a walkie, but the IT cages 4 floors down were already locked. Samira had slipped her master keycard to the night engineer, who now guarded the servers like a paladin. Marion felt the moment stretch, every second heavy with the stories of workers the algorithm tried to erase. She reached into her jacket, revealing the torn Diversity Day poster edges, oil-smudged, and spread it on the security desk so the camera framed Whitmore behind the crumpled word, "Diversity." "You stepped on this because you feared what it meant," she said, voice steady, yet edged with years of swallowed indignation. "But fear doesn't vote, people do." The percentage ticked to 49%. Thunder rattled the skylight. A hush fell so deep the only sound was the soft drip from soaked umbrellas. Whitmore's shoulders heaved. He spat, "You'll bankrupt us." Marion answered, "Companies crumble from rot, not sunlight." Suddenly, the building lights died, grid finally surrendering to the storm, and the monitors went black. Gasps rippled. For 3 heartbeats, the revolution hung in perfect darkness. Then dozens of phone flashlights ignited like stars, Samira's stream surviving on cellular data. The vote graphic reappeared on handheld devices, and with a collective inhale, the crimson bar crossed 51%. Cheers erupted, echoing up the atrium like the first roar of freedom. Whitmore staggered back pale, but before security could step in, he drew a silver letter opener from the reception desk, eyes wild. The crowd froze, light bouncing off the blade as he slashed downward straight into the torn poster, ripping the paper, not flesh, into ragged halves. "If I go down, I take the brand with me," he hissed. Shredded fragments fluttered to the floor, landing at Marion's feet just as the storm outside sent a jagged bolt of lightning skittering across the dark skyline. She knelt, fingers closing over each fragment, then rose slowly, meeting the camera lens with a gaze forged in every night shift. "You can tear paper," she declared, "but you cannot shred conviction." Yet above them all, a louder tearing sound cracked the lobby's main glass panel, already stressed by wind spider-webbed into fractures. For one terrifying second, everyone wondered whether the next shatter would be glass reputation or both. "Everybody back, the glass is giving way," a security guard shouted, but Bradley Whitmore, face gleaming with a mix of rain sweat and desperation, lunged toward the cracked panel as though he could hold the entire facade of Hawthorne and Beck together with his bare hands. The lobby lights snapped on again under generator power, revealing a spiderweb of fractures radiating from the spot where the CEO's fist now pressed, tiny diamonds tinkling to the floor. Marion Brooks tightened her grip on the shredded poster pieces and stepped forward, heart-hammering yet oddly calm. Years of mopping night spills had trained her instinct to move toward, not away from impending messes. Bradley stepped back. "You're one pane of glass away from proving gravity still wins," she called, voice steady enough to hush the gasps around them. He turned, eyes feral. "You think you've beaten me when that sheet falls? So does the market, and every pension tied to this stock. Your people will blame you." For a beat, Marion felt the weight of his threat janitors, 401ks cafeteria workers' college funds, all fluttering like the poster scraps in her hand. But conviction overrode fear. She slipped a single yellow glove back on the rubber, snapping like the cocking of a metaphorical trigger, and pressed her palm to the emergency steel shutter switch embedded in the wall. A deep mechanical groan rolled through the atrium as reinforced panels slid from the ceiling, sealing the lobby windows in sections. The crowd exhaled. The glass held a second longer, then finally burst, harmless shards clattering against the fresh barrier. Whitmore recoiled, stunned that his own melodrama had been upstaged by industrial safety features he'd approved to cut insurance costs. Marion advanced the lone glove, now smeared with dust and rainwater, lifting the tatters of Diversity Day so the camera could frame torn ideals against trembling power. "You just watched a wall fail, and the building adapt," she said, words rippling over the live feed. "That's what companies must do, adapt when a fault line shows, instead of pretending the crack isn't there." Behind her, Director Alvarez and 2 others finished tallying physical ballots under Samira's watchful lens. The number 89 flashed crimson on screen, far beyond the threshold to remove Whitmore and appoint an interim chair. The lobby erupted in a low roar of relief, yet the ex-CEO only stared at the rubber glove like it was a curse. Security closed in, unsure if they were escorting a threat or protecting him from a crowd now emboldened by victory. Whitmore's chest heaved. He whispered something no mic caught, then cast one last glance at the shattered window, a kingdom broken by its own reflection, and allowed himself to be led toward the side exit. But as the doors hissed open, a gust of storm wind shoved rain across the marble, extinguishing several phone lights and plunging the room into half shadow. In that flicker of dimness, an alarm somewhere deeper in the building began to wail, one not tied to the glass breach, but to the server room 4 floors below. Leon's voice crackled over the PA, strained Marion. "The AI system just initiated a forced data wipe 10 minutes until logs are gone forever." The crowd's celebration froze mid-cheer, faces pivoting from Whitmore to Marion like compass needles seeking true north. She inhaled, feeling the grit of broken glass under her soles, and realized the fight wasn't over. Truth still dangled by a thinning thread of code. Marion turned toward the service elevator, yellow glove clenched, and said, "Only Jin-Ho with me, 9 minutes 50 seconds. The door slid closed around them, leaving the lobby suspended between victory and erasure as the timer began its merciless countdown. 9 minutes, the elevator display blinked as Marion Brooks slammed the service key, plunging the car downward, so fast her stomach caught against her ribs, and an empire's conscience is hanging by a loading bar. Jin-Ho Park balanced his tablet like a beating heart code, cascading while he muttered, "The wipe scripts hitting the core archives first. If that goes, everything we streamed was just theater." Sub-basement doors yawned open onto a corridor, lit emergency red racks humming like angry bees behind steel mesh cages. Marion sprinted, rubber gloves squeaking against her palm sweat, until a security reader blocked their path. New biometric lock, CEO level only. 7 minutes. She exhaled, remembering Bradley Whitmore's parting glare when glass shattered. His voice, she said, pulling a tiny audio recorder from her pocket footage Samira had filed during Whitmore's tirade. Jin-Ho's eyebrows shot up. Voice print, spoofing, that's brilliant or illegal. Both, she answered, sliding the recorder into the mic port. Whitmore's earlier snarl, employee stock purchase plans, cap ownership at 15%, crackled through the speaker. The lock's light hesitated, then flashed green. They burst into the server room, where blue LEDs blinked a slow countdown, 05:34, 05:33. Leon's face appeared on an overhead monitor, pixels jittering from generator load. Root credentials rejected. Wiper has kernel priority, he warned. Marion scanned for a manual override and spotted it half buried behind cable trunks, a bright yellow kill switch, a safety relic from when data centers feared fire, not truth. Symbolism wasn't lost on her. The last yellow glove tightened, and she yanked killing power to the mainframe. Fans died, lights dimmed, and for a breath, the world fell silent, except for their pulse. Jin-Ho whispered, "Did we just commit corporate homicide?" But before panic set in, backup batteries clicked, buying them 90 awful seconds before the wipe script reboots autonomously. Marion connected her flash drive smiley sticker, now smudged, but power was low. Transfer crawled. She spoke evenly more to herself than to Jin-Ho. 10 years of quiet, 10 hours of chaos, 10 seconds of courage. The progress bar inched 60%, 72%, while outside thunder rattled ductwork like war drums. At 95%, the batteries beeped exhausted. Lights faded. Darkness swallowed them a full beat before the bar dinged, complete, on Jin-Ho's dim screen. He whooped. Marion sagged against a rack relief, a tidal wave. Upstairs, generators roared back to life, and Leon's voice crackled. Logs secured in off-site cloud, immutable. The Empire's conscience had uploaded. When they surfaced in the lobby, dawn seeped through rain-streaked shutters. Employees ringed the atrium, weary but unbowed. Director Alvarez stood at a portable podium announcing interim leadership focused on ethics and inclusive innovation. Applause swelled as Marion stepped forward, still wearing one grimy glove, the other hand, clutching only a single shard of the shattered poster edges softening under her thumb. This, she told the crowd and the livestream viewers, cresting past 2 million, isn't the end of a fight. It's the start of vigilance. Her gaze swept janitors with mop handles held like banners, interns, analysts, guards, faces reflecting every shade the algorithm had tried to erase. Machines learn from the people who build them. Let's build better. The atrium erupted, but Marion simply peeled off the last glove and laid it atop the reception desk, beside that poster shard, a quiet artifact of labor turned leverage, then walked toward the revolving doors. Jin-Ho called after her, asking what came next. She paused beneath the leaking skylight, smiled, and said, "I'm late for my first day off in a decade." Lightning had passed. Sunrise painted the glass anew. And somewhere in a sealed cloud server, truth settled in for the long haul, untouchable, waiting to remind anyone tempted by easy power that invisible hands can still flip the master switch.